Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. Our show is a production of our political committee, the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation, or THCF, and its affiliated political committee, CRRH, or the Campaign for the Restoration and Regulation of Hemp. We have a great show for you tonight. Mr. Tim Pate is here to provide musical accompaniment. Don Dupay and I will be taking your phone calls just a little bit later on. We have an interesting hemp news segment for you. We have some video from the Portland City Council and other exciting things, so stay tuned. But as we always do, let's start off with the infamous Dancing Cannabis Leaves.
Feel the force.
First story tonight is from Dearborn, Michigan, from the Associated Press. A police officer will avoid criminal charges despite admitting he took marijuana from criminal suspects and, with his wife, baked it into brownies. The police department's decision not to pursue a case against former Corporal Edward Sanchez left a bad taste in the mouth of at least one city official who vowed to investigate. City Councilman Doug Thomas said, quote, "If you're a cop and you're arresting people and you're confiscating the marijuana and keeping it yourself, that's bad. That's real bad," end quote. Sanchez, who resigned last year from the department in this Detroit suburb, declined to comment Wednesday to the Detroit Free Press. Police Commander Jeff Geisinger did not return calls seeking comment. The department's investigation began with a 911 call from Sanchez's home on April 21st, 2006. On a 5-minute tape of the call obtained by the Free Press, Sanchez told an emergency dispatcher he thought he and his wife were overdosing on marijuana. He said, quote, "I think we're dying. We made brownies and I think we're dead. I really do," end quote. Sanchez later told police investigators that his wife took the marijuana out of his police vehicle while he was sleeping. In a subsequent interview, he admitted he got the marijuana out of the car himself and put it in the brownie mix, the police said. His wife also was not charged. That's from the Associated Press today, May 11th, 2007. Next story is from Hawaii. The state's 13,000 teachers are to be subjected to random drug testing. From Honolulu, Hawaii public school teachers have ratified a new contract provisions that include random drug testing for the island's 13,000 teachers. Members of the Hawaii State Teachers Association Board of Directors had previously approved the provisions, which state government officials added to the contracts following the recent arrests of a handful of school officials on drug-related charges. It's been estimated that the new random testing program will cost Hawaii's taxpayers close to $100,000 annually. Approximately 61% of the teachers who participated in last week's vote approved the drug testing measure. The new 2-year contract will also give teachers a pay raise. Officials from the Hawaii Governor's Office strongly pushed for the drug testing provisions, stating that any new contract offered by the state would have to include a clause for testing teachers. Protocols for the drug testing program have yet to be developed and still need to be negotiated by the Teachers Union and the State Department of Education. In 1989, the U.S. Supreme Court determined that randomly drug testing certain federal and state employees does not constitute and does not violate the U.S. Constitution's Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable searches. However, in 1998, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled that public school teachers, teachers' aides, and clerical workers cannot be drug tested absent individualized suspicion. That case was United Teachers of New Orleans versus the Orleans Parish School Board. And though more recent rulings have upheld such testing policies, Hawaii's policy will likely face a similar legal challenge. Our last story tonight is from Canada, and red tape is thwarting patients' access to the legal medical pot supply, according to a new study. out of Ottawa, the capital of Canada. Most Canadian patients who use cannabis therapeutically are not registered under the Federal Medical Marijuana Access Program and continue to acquire their medicine from the black market, according to survey data published in the April issue of the journal AIDS Care. Investigators at the Canadian AIDS Society and British Columbia Center for Addictions Research surveyed 197 volunteers living with HIV and AIDS. Among the respondents surveyed, 61% said that they used marijuana therapeutically, but only 36% said they had applied for legal access to use cannabis under Canada's Marijuana Medical Access Regulations, or the MMAR. Enacted in 2001, the MMAR grants qualified patients a federal exemption to possess and use medicinal marijuana. Registered patients also have the option to purchase government-grown cannabis. Among those respondents who had not registered with the government, most said they found Health Canada's regulations to be overly onerous, complicated, or intimidating. Many also said they had consistently heard negative feedback about the program and the quality of the government's medical cannabis. Of those patients surveyed, only 2% said they had purchased government-grown meta-cannabis. On average, HIV/AIDS patients consumed about 66 grams of marijuana per month, or 2.2 grams per day, the survey reported. 69% of those surveyed said that their physician supported their marijuana therapy, and 92% reported that they'd spoken with their doctor about their cannabis use. Most patients surveyed, or 62%, said that they'd acquired medical cannabis from a friend or someone they know, while 36% they said they'd purchased cannabis from private cannabis dispensaries. The authors of the study recommended that the Canadian government begin formally licensing dispensaries because they provide patients with a safe supply of cannabis and offer the therapeutic knowledge and other social support needs that other supply sources don't. Commenting on this recommendation, Philippe Lucas, the founder of Vancouver Island's Compassion Society, said, quote, "Our current federal program is failing to protect critically and chronically ill Canadians. The lack of official government and legal support for community-based dispensaries means that those who use medical cannabis to treat serious health conditions face unnecessary risk and stigma for making fundamental choices in regards to their health care." End quote. A 2004 Canadian addiction survey reported that approximately 4% of Canadians aged 15 and older self-identify as medicinal cannabis patients. However, fewer than 1,400 Canadians are registered to legally use medical marijuana under the MMAR. The full text of this study, The Barrier to Access of Medicinal Cannabis for Canadians Living with HIV and AIDS, appears in the April issue of AIDS Care, a magazine out there. That's the end of our Hemp News segment tonight. Now we'll segue into the illustrious Mr. Tim Pate, who's going to provide some musical accompaniment. How are you doing, Tim?
I am doing well. It's been a very interesting week, I have to say.
It has been. We spoke in front of the city council. We got a videotape of that coming up here at halftime.
We'll show that, and then we'll get a chance to talk about that and tell everybody about a little victory we had this week.
Yep. We've had some forward momentum, and that sure beats the alternatives.
I like having victories. I do. It's important. And I think I'll play a little blues, just because this is Portland, and we like the blues here.
We do. All right. Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
So how are you doing this week, Don?
I've been pretty good, Paul. It's been interesting for sure.
It has been. We got
And in
some
honor of the
interesting
week,
things
I'm
talking.
wearing DEA green.
It kind of looks like one of those Masters golf tournament
Yeah.
jackets that they all wear when they're out there in Augusta, Georgia, playing in the Masters. Okay, if you're out there tonight on the 11th of May, 2007, then you can call us and ask a question or make a comment about ending adult marijuana prohibition, restoring industrial hemp, and helping medical marijuana patients. Just call us at that number that's there on your screen, 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. We'll be taking your calls for about another 45 minutes or so, so go ahead and try to call in. I understand it's kind of difficult for callers to call in. We're pretty popular in the cable access world, but so it goes.
So it goes.
Yep, we can only be happy about that. So, we've had a number of different interesting things going on this week. One of them is the City Parks Department has asked for a security plan. Before they had told us we couldn't have a hemp stock festival this year. They weren't going to even consider issuing a permit. And now we've had a breakthrough and they've asked for a security plan. We have some movement forward. We'll be showing a clip where Tim Pate, our attorney Ann Whitty, and Andrew Hegenrud are going to speak before the city council. Or we actually did, but you'll see that. I think we have a caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Paul, it's Lonnie.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing today?
Very well. How?
At home tonight. I wanted to make down the show, but I'm waiting on someone to come by.
Uh-huh.
Okay. I was wondering, did you mention that one of the biggest hemp and cannabis supporters in the world, Willie Nelson, is going to be in Vancouver on the 30th of June.
That's true.
And this year, for the first time, he is having his 4th of July picnic.
Yep, at George in the Gorge.
Yeah, that's
which
it.
is about a 3-hour drive out of Portland, 2-hour drive out of Seattle, and an hour and a half or 2 hours or so out of Spokane. It's right in the middle of the state geographically. So, the Gorge kind of takes a turn up there and heads north to Canada. And so Willie Nelson's going to have his first ever barbecue picnic. And Lonnie, who is calling in here, surprisingly, and Tim Pate had the great honor a few weeks back of going backstage at Willie Nelson's show in the Fillmore West in San Francisco. And we'll have further communications when he comes into this part of the country, too.
That sounds like a winner. That is definitely going to happen, by the way. I did talk to Foodie Dave. I'll talk to you about that later. So,
his stage manager.
Okay.
Well, good.
I'm glad to hear that we've got some forward motion on the
permit. Yeah.
Yes, it's the city keeps changing its mind. They have all kinds of different reasons, but it seems every time you guys go up in front of them, it's not the reason that they give you.
It was really surreal this week because we did not really know that the Royal Rosarians, the folks that put on the Rose Festival here in Portland, which is the biggest celebration in Portland on an annual basis. It's a month-long gala extravaganza that takes place in many different ways throughout the city of Portland for those viewers who are outside of Portland. We went in there and the whole court of the Rose Festival was there, and they're all dressed up in these white suits and their royal regalia. And once we were done speaking, this guy with a mask came dancing through the crowd. It was almost unreal, only to have Randy Leonard say, "Hey, aren't you with that previous group?" That was, some people were insulted by that. Others of us found some humor in it. But so it goes.
You guys are doing a great job, and I will probably see you Monday.
All right, sounds good.
You have a good day.
Thanks for calling in there, Lonnie. If you have a question for us tonight or a comment, you can call us at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. And just try to dial through when you hear somebody hang up, because that's the best time to get through. So, we've also had some breakthroughs in our subpoena issue. We've had, the THC Foundation has seen a total of 18,000 patients right now across 5 different states. So we have records on 18,000 patients. But about a month or so ago, we got a subpoena from Yakima, Washington, for 14 patients' records. And Don's going to talk a little bit about that in just a minute. But happy to say that the ACLU has signed on aboard this case, and we've got a whole team of legal folks fighting this now. So 4 ACLU attorneys in addition to our esteemed attorney, Ann Whitty. And it seems like we're definitely going to fight this thing all the way to the Supreme Court if need be, and I think the rules are on our side. I don't really see the need for these folks to get these medical records, and so we're happy to be the ones to fight it because we know we'll fight it the best. And so bring it on. I know they watch this show on the internet too, from what the attorneys tell me. They've been watching, so
good.
The more viewers the better. It just drives the ratings up, you know, and more views on YouTube. You can watch this show on YouTube if you want. The whole thing's out there. Our director and producer, Will Appel, he puts it out there, and if you want to see it again and again, or you want to have your friends get it, you don't have to make a tape. Just tell them to go to YouTube if they have a computer, and they can watch it at any time, day or night, 24 hours a day, no cover charge.
Hey, that's exciting.
That is. It just keeps growing and growing. And I can now tell all our Denver viewers, and you're probably watching this at this time right now, we're now on every Saturday night at 10 p.m. I think that's a great time.
That is a good time.
Every Saturday night at 10 p.m. throughout the Denver metropolitan area, you can watch Cannabis Common Sense for an hour. I think it's channel... No, I don't want to quote the channel. I'm not sure. I can't remember that. Short-term memory loss, or so they say, you know.
I think we have gremlins in the studio tonight.
There's something going on with videotapes in there. It sounds like somebody's running a tape backwards, and, you know, we're all volunteers here, folks, so including us and everybody in front and behind the camera. You see the 3 of us are in front of the camera, but there's a team of about 12 people behind the cameras altogether, and it takes a village to make a TV show, as Hillary Clinton would like us to think about many different things, I suppose.
Even the gremlins are volunteers.
Yeah, even the gremlins and those little squeaky voices that you might hear back there. Maybe we'll get camera number 2 to roll on in here and do our show and tell. We've got a pretty exciting show and tell, at least from my perspective tonight. We've got a couple of items that are actually full, which is pretty unusual in the world of cannabis collectibles. Right here from England, we have a bottle of chlorodyne. Chlorodyne was a typical, or actually this is from Australia, a typical compound that was used. I'm just going to read what it says it's used for. It affects great relief in all cases of diarrhea, dysentery, cholera, fevers, neuralgia, bronchitis, asthma, croup, cramps, influenza, and as a sedative medicine for the use in a great many complaints. Sounds very familiar, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Now, this is a bottle of medicine. It's actually full of 100 little capsules from the manufacturing chemists. And they are the successors to Bell and Company. And this is Cannabis Bell. It's an extract of cannabis, strychnine, and zinc phosphate. Cannabis Bell, a nerve tonic and stimulant for the treatment of mental and physical exhaustion, depression, insomnia, neuralgia, etc. 1 tablet after each meal and at bedtime. Gradually increase your dose to 2, 4 times a day, as directed by your physician. So we got these nifty little green tablets in there in the bottle, and there's 100 of them in there, and they're about 100 years old. Now, this is from England. This is an apothecary canister. It probably would hold about a ½ ounce or so, and it's got a nifty little mark on the bottom, an LE, and it shows some wear and with age on the inside a little bit. And so there you have it. And then this one is from the Columbus Pharmacist Company, and it's Nervine Improved Elixir. Nervine Improved Elixir. So I'm going to pull it away and read from the bottle. It contains cannabis indica right up at the top, and it's useful in the treatment of congestive, convulsive, and reflexive neuroses, insomnia, neurasthenia, affections due to derangement of the nervous system, epilepsy, nervous insanity, dysmania, hysteria, and uterine congestion. A dose is 1 teaspoon, 4 times a day. So there it is.
For hysteria.
Yep, hysteria and uterine congestion. I don't know exactly what that is, but it sounds kind of scary. Sounds scary to me. So there we've done our sharing. You know, back in my day we called it show and tell, but today it's sharing. So we've got to go with the new terminology, don't we? We have a caller, though. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hi.
Hi.
I just wanted to find out if I called the office on Ankeny, if I could find out if I was one of those names on that subpoena.
You know, if you were, you would have already been called by us.
Oh, okay.
So everybody out there, if you haven't got a call from us,
I'm glad you guys aren't folding.
Yeah, we called all 14 of the patients and told them, you know, we're sorry, but out of our 18,000 patients, you're one of the 14 that gets to be on the front lines.
And so who's investigating? And
it's the Drug Enforcement Administration out of Yakima. The subpoena actually was sent from the DEA, and it's a prosecutor, a U.S. assistant attorney in Yakima by the name of Haggerty, who also watches this show.
Probably for a hidden, what do they call that, a hidden indictment? Or
well,
indictment?
it's for a grand jury, and so grand juries issue indictments. And so they claim they want it for a grand jury investigation. And in fact, the subpoena ordered me not to say anything about this. And there are some people that think I might get charged with contempt of court. But if I do, I've got a team of legal attorneys ready to work on that. And I don't think they'll be so stupid.
Well, somebody's got to stand up and face.
I'm glad to do it. I'm glad if they're going to pick anybody, they couldn't pick somebody better than me. You know,
That's good. I'm the same way. Anyway, thank you.
All right. Thank you. So don't worry. We're going to fight this. And I know, in fact, that the OMMP office, the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program office, has also received a subpoena for these very same people, not anyone else. So if we haven't called you, you don't have to worry. Your name's not on that list. But it does show an escalation in the local war. In fact, when we just had the Million Marijuana March last weekend, and there was the head of the Portland or Oregon DEA office, Ken McGee, was there, as he was with 2 or 3 other people, and they were taping and taking photographs of us. I feel so honored. We taped and took photographs of them too. They're up on the Oregon Normal website. If you want to take a look at that, just go to ORGNORML.org, and you can take a look at those lovely photographs. And I've got some others we'll be showing at some point in the future. But one of our volunteers on this television show approached the DEA head, Ken McGee, along with someone else who was there to listen, and told them how she had not used marijuana for 20 years. She'd quit and given it up, but now was using it medicinally. And Ken McGee told her that she should give up her marijuana addiction and Jesus would cure her pain and her afflictions.
Hallelujah.
But now, when Ken McGee was asked about this by the Oregonian, he denied it completely, even though we have several witnesses who watched him do it and say these things to one of our volunteers here. He lied about it. He's just a bald-faced liar. You know, Ken, you're a dirty liar, and you know it. And he watches this show too, I'm sure. But he's probably hoping we're going to show his picture. You know, there's one thing I can say, though. In looking at his picture, I was told that the guy wore this beret that is apparently a fox beret, and someone told me it was a $200 beret. And he had this big, thick gold chain around his neck, you know, and I think maybe there was a spoon at the end, but I don't know that. But there's a big, thick gold chain, and we theorized, you know, his hat alone and was, you know, $200, and the gold chain is probably more than that. That hat costs more than all of my clothes that I'm wearing right now put together. You know, just that hat. This guy, Ken McGee, was the head. This is how scary it is. Ken McGee was the head of the DEA's office in Colombia, South America, for 5 years. He would not hesitate to put a bullet in any of our heads. I'm sure of that. But Ken is a dirty liar. Oh, we got some photos. Maybe we will show them. I don't want to get his ego boosted up too much, but Ken, go back to Columbia, where you need it.
Get a real job.
Leave us alone. Okay, if you have a call for us tonight, you can call us at 503-288-4448. And we do have a caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How are you this evening?
I'm doing pretty darn well. How about yourself?
I'm good, thanks. I just had a question. I was speaking with my sister who's got a fibromyalgia condition. She was just in a study program on that particular condition, and I told her that she could probably receive help from medical marijuana, but I wasn't sure if it was a qualifying.
It is definitely a qualifying condition. I would say out of our 18,000 patients, over 1,000 of them have fibromyalgia.
Ah. Also, she suffers from migraines, so.
That is also a qualifying condition, and next week on this show we'll have an antique migraine medicine made from cannabis. It says for migraines, and the main compound is cannabis. So it's been used for migraines for a long, long time.
Okay. She's never been a smoker of tobacco or anything else. What would you recommend for her for that condition?
I would recommend edibly taking cannabis. You can receive relief from pain and spasms and seizures by even eating the leaf of cannabis, which won't give you the high that the flowers will, but will give you a good dose of CBD, not the THC that causes the psychoactive response, but the CBD. And it's the CBD that's the primary medicine for pain, spasms, seizures, neurological disorders, and degenerative diseases, and gastrointestinal diseases.
Really?
Also, there's vaporization, which is a good alternative to smoking. Now, when you eat cannabis, it has a pretty slow onset of 1 to 1.5 hours, and if you're going for the psychoactive effect, it can be much more strong, as that police officer noticed in our first news stories, can be much more strong than you get from the inhaled use of cannabis. But
Even
a vaporizer will extract that much more efficiently than smoking. Smoking actually destroys most of the medicine in the burning process before it can enter the body. And so with vaporization, none is destroyed. You get twice as much medicine through the inhaled method, and you can still use what's left over for edible CBD content.
Oh, super. I've heard you talk about vaporizers before, but I didn't realize that. That's great.
Yeah, your cannabis goes 3 times farther, twice as far inhaling, sometimes more, depending on how you're using it. And you can still use it for eating afterwards.
Excellent. I was curious also how the Million Marijuana March went.
It was great. We had about 400 people, according to the Portland Police, and it was completely peaceful. It was a good event. The DEA wanted to come down and take our photographs afterwards, but, so it goes. We took their photographs, too. I might even grab a couple here and show you in a minute. But like I was saying, and looking over their photographs, man, they're rich. Those guys are rich. I wonder where they get all that money. I'm sure it's not from their government salary that they wear these gold chains and $150 berets and things like that. Yeah, $200 berets. I'm sure it's not from their government salary. They must be sticking their hands in the cookie jar, which is all those drug agents do. Isn't that right?
I think so, yes.
I think that's the fact. And that's why they don't want us to end. They're down there trying to stop the end of marijuana prohibition because they want to keep grabbing our marijuana for their own use, and they're not going to be able to do it much longer.
Yeah, I just noticed on the ASA website that they had a lawsuit against the police in California for seizing a guy's plants. I guess he had 99 plants or something like that.
Yeah, and they said they destroyed it.
Yeah, right.
Before the court ordered them to give it back to him. Nope, we destroyed it.
Wink,
so
wink.
he got $8,000 for that.
Yeah, I read that. That seemed like a pittance, but
yeah,
hey.
It's not that much, but it's better than nothing. Maybe it'll teach him a lesson.
I doubt that.
We can hope.
We're waiting for the next crop.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Thanks for your call. Okay, well, we have a film clip of the City Council, and we'll be back in just a second, so take a look.
I'm speaking at the request of the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation. Ken McGee, the DEA agent, federal drug enforcement agent, up for the head of the office here in Portland, attended a marijuana event weekend before last. He was exhorting individual medical marijuana patients to give up their addiction to marijuana and take Jesus into their hearts, and Jesus would cure their pain. The federal government has become the face of the right-wing fringe at this time. It is the DEA which is behind the move to stop the Hemp Fest in Portland. I urge you, the citizens of the city, again urge you to say no to the DEA and yes to Hemp Fest, Hemp Stock. Thank you.
My name is Douglas Paul Stanford. I'm speaking about the Hemp Stock Festival. We have approached the Parks Department about approving a permit for our third annual event. And we were told there was, according to a letter we received from the security officer for the Parks Department, quote, widespread use of marijuana and alcohol, end quote. And that was the reason that they were denying our application for an event. We did not see any alcohol use at our event, and there was not widespread use of cannabis there. We did provide a space for medical users in a tent where we carded them to come in and use medicinal cannabis. The city officer had asked us not to do that, but we have a letter from Elise Marshall dated 2001 saying we don't need the permission of the city to do something that's legal under the... Is it okay if I can have him bring up a copy of that email to you?
Bring up a copy?
Yeah, there's an email here.
Please give it to the council clerk.
Council clerk. There's several copies for the city council members. Anyway, we want to have an event at Delta Park East on September 8th and 9th. We're told now that we're not going to be allowed to have an event. Dan Salzman's aide, who works on the Parks Department, told me several DEA agents had come into his office and encouraged them not to issue this permit. And the city, in a meeting that Andrew Hangenrud and I had about a month ago, told us they weren't going to allow us to have a permit to put on our third annual event. We've already signed Tommy Chong to be the MC of the event. We have John Trudell lined up as one of the participants, and we want to put on our event. So I was told by this aide to Mr. Salzman that we should come to the City Council, express our concerns about the Parks Department not allowing us to have this event, and ask you folks to urge the Parks Department to issue the permit for our event. And we specifically had a policy of no use of marijuana in public, no alcohol, and we made that very public during our talks from the stage during our event. At the event, we didn't have any sorts of problems. It was a very peaceful 2-day event last year. No one complained at the time. It wasn't until we went before the Parks Department here in the past 2 months that these problems have surfaced according to their representation of that. So I'd urge you to have the Parks Department issue a permit for our event at East Delta Park on September 8th and 9th, which is a Saturday and Sunday, so we can have our third annual event. Thank you.
My name is Andrew Hangrud. I work for THCF. I was one of the event coordinators last year, and I personally walked through the events many times during the 2 days supervising the existence of this event. I actually only came across one person attempting to use cannabis, and I asked them to not use it, and that we had specific policies regarding using cannabis in a public place and in public view, according to ORS 475. So I'm just basically here to reiterate what Paul just said, and that's where I stand.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Tim Pate. For the last, 20 years, I've been working in the crisis business. For 14 years, I lived in Eugene. I was chairman of the board of directors of Whitebird Clinic there. Served there 9 years. For 9 years, I also ran the rock medicine team for the Grateful Dead. And my band, I write music for motion picture and television. So for the past 16 years, I've been opening the Seattle Hemp Fest. When we first started, we had maybe 3,000 people. Now we'll have 150 to 200,000 people a day for a 2-day event. We have attempted here in Portland to do the same thing, to have a peaceful event that works well with all of the locals. We have a really good working relationship with the police in Seattle and have for a very long time. Last year and the year before, I actually opened Hemp Stock here in Portland. And in fact, it's good to see all the Rose Festival people here because my band actually closed the Rose Festival last year on Tuesday the 6th. I am very interested in seeing a peaceful event again. Last year, I not only opened the show, I managed the stage, and with the cooperation of others, was the MC for the show. And I've been in front of a lot of people in my lifetime, and that was a very peaceful crowd. Any incidents that I heard of were directed back to us, and we took action as needed. I felt like we had everything under control. If there was any problems with drinking in the area, it was not of us. It were people who were there in the park to do their own thing, and they weren't of us, nor were they in our area, because I was there observing when they were arrested. I feel that any charges against us were laid late, and we were not given an ample opportunity to correct any issues if there were issues, which we'd be happy to do, to respond to anything that we needed to in a timely manner. And so therefore, since we did request a permit and that permit was denied, we feel it's important for us to come before you and ask your support. We feel like this is a free speech event that is vital to our community, and that I ask for your support. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. That was it for the communications. We'll move to the consent agenda. Do any commissioners wish to pull any items from the consent agenda? Does any member of this audience wish to pull any items from the consent agenda? Please call the vote.
Adams.
Aye.
Leonard.
Aye.
Stent. Aye. Potter.
Aye. Please read the 9:30 time certain.
Agenda item 500, Portland Rose Festival Association update.
And also 501.
Grant revocable permits to the Portland Rose Festival Association to perform activities relating to Portland Rose Festival's 100th anniversary celebration from May 11th through June 15, 2007.
Today we have with us the Rose Festival Association President Leslie Goodlow Baldwin and Executive Director Jeff Curtis, and they're going to give us a brief status report on the 2007 Rose Festival.
Thank you, Council. For the record, Jeff Curtis, Executive Director.
Leslie Goodlow Baldwin, President of the Portland Rose Festival Association.
A little bit about the Rose Festival. Expect the unexpected this year for the centennial. That was the legendary carnival king of the festival, Rex Orgonis. We had him kick off the presentation this morning because May 31st, he'll officially kick off the centennial Rose Festival when he lands on his river flotilla at Waterfront Village.
We thought he might have been part of the last group.
This will be an extravagant recreation of the early Rose Festivals when we
joke. Some people didn't like that joke. Others didn't mind. Hey, I think we have a caller standing by. Hello, caller. You are on our show. Hello, caller. They're gone. Well, he missed his chance, didn't he?
Missed his chance, yeah.
Sylvia, let's get a close-up on this guy. We talked about him. This is the DEA man. Here's the DEA man. His name is Ken McGee, and he was the head of the DEA operation in Colombia, South America for 5 years. Now he's come to Portland wearing very, very expensive clothing. Just on his head and neck, he's got probably $1,000 worth of clothing on there. How many diamonds are in that earring? I don't know, God. Anyway, he will shoot you dead and be happy to do it, I'm sure. He's got compassion for sick people, though, or so he said in the Oregonian when he told the bald-faced lie that he didn't say what he said to the camera person who is holding the camera on this very picture. But so it goes again. You know, I like that Kurt Vonnegut saying, so it goes. So it goes. We have another caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hi, I'm Diane. I'm a patient.
Hi, Diane.
Hi. I wanted to comment about our public servant who said that Jesus would cure our pain.
That was him.
Jesus does cure our pain with medical marijuana.
That's right. You know, the person who had the camera tried to tell him that cannabis was part of the holy anointing oil. Of course, the DEA man didn't know anything about that.
Of course not.
Yeah,
but
I don't
think
he
you're right.
knows about the Jesus that gives us all of these wonderful gifts to help us live with our physical problems.
You know, as far as I can tell, cannabis is an herb-bearing seed. In fact, it's an herb that bears more seed than any other plant on this planet. And so I think those were given for us to use as meat or something like that, right?
Yes.
I'm very grateful for it. And
Me
most
too.
of our medicine does come from plants.
That's true. The best ones do.
I also wanted to comment on the Willamette Week, which you commented on last week.
Yeah, go right
the
ahead.
calendar, that was so discriminatory and petty.
It really was. It really was.
They said everyone hates hippies. As long as hippies keep running the legalization campaign, marijuana will stay illegal.
You know, it sounds like hate speech to me, doesn't it to you?
Yeah, it is.
Absolutely.
We're the new minority, and they can say anything they want, they think, and, you know, what can I say except we need to educate them.
Yes, a lot of education is necessary. I wish that people had more understanding of what a critical issue the war on drugs is.
Really. I agree.
I think it's a privacy issue, but not only that, it's an international issue. It makes me sick to think that my tax dollars provide helicopters that do defoliating in Colombia and create these drug wars and murders.
Yeah. It is pretty scary, and it's something that I'm ashamed to pay tax dollars into as well. And how many thousands of people are incarcerated just for cultivating cannabis? And that's a real shame, the way it tears apart families. And you know, we're doing that, just destroying families around the world with this thing. And the sooner we end adult marijuana prohibition, restore industrial hemp, the better off we're all going to be.
It's completely irrational, and history will show it to be a very shameful part of our government.
I agree. I think it'll be looked back on the same way we now look back on the Jim Crow laws and realize that was a big mistake. And so it's our job to get that changed, and I appreciate your help in that.
Well, I appreciate what you all do. Last week was just wonderful.
Did you come to the march?
Well, I'm stuck in bed. I don't get out very much, so your show is real important to me.
Thank you.
And the whole spirit of the movement against the war on drugs is so important.
Yeah, it really is. Thank you. And I appreciate you watching and keeping up with it.
Well, I love you guys, and I'm behind you all the way.
All right.
Thanks
Thank you
for saying so.
Bye-bye.
Right. Have a good night. Don, you want to talk about
do I?
Some of these things I know you've been wanting to.
Oh, do I? Tyranny is here, right here in Portland, Oregon. Behind my back, and without my knowledge or consent, a federal grand jury wants to review my personal medical records held by the THCF Foundation.
Yep, Don was one of the folks who's records have been subpoenaed.
Paul Stanford has been commanded to appear before the grand jury and bring with him my personal medical records, my history, and by the way, Paul Stanford, you are committed to secrecy. Do not tell Don Dupé. I can't tell you how outraged I am at our Nazi government's attitude. Screw the Constitution, we will do what we want to anyway. I'm boiling mad, and you should be too, because if they can snoop uninvited through my medical records, second-guessing my doctor's evaluations, looking at my medications, they can obtain and snoop through yours too. I remind you that the government is the enforcement arm of Big Pharma. And Big Pharma wants to know what medications you're taking so that they can find out how much that damned marijuana is costing them in lost refills. Snoop, 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 and of course, do it in secret. Paul Stanford elected to go public with his information, possibly to his own detriment, but we both realize that what the government wants to do in secret has to have the heat, light, and glare of publicity put on it. Amen. And that's why I'm talking about it in public tonight, because the DEA brought it to me personally. So I have this to say to the DEA. When the federal government subpoena came down, the DEA began visiting and intimidating the medical THCF patients. They came to talk to me on Wednesday, May the 2nd. One of them was a bald-headed punk, about 25 years old, with a DEA badge hanging around a string on his neck. The other one was a scruffy, dirty-looking fella, looked like he'd been a few days out of the homeless shelter that I used to manage. We'd like to ask you some questions, Mr. Dupé, they said, about medical marijuana patients you know. And of course, it's off the record. As you can imagine, I was really eager to talk to them after they assured me it was off the record. Yeah, right. That's when I turned on my own tape recorder. They sent 2 kids, is what they did. They weren't even born when I carried a homicide detective's badge in this city, to talk to me and ask me questions. Obviously, me, of all people, they come to ask questions to, they do not know who I am. I was rude to them, calling one a bald-headed punk, because he was, the other one scruffy and dirty, and I strongly suggested that they get a real job and stop messing with medical patients. I made them so angry, they threatened to arrest me if I did not cooperate with their federal investigation. I discussed this encounter with Graham Boyd of the ALCU, and we wondered together what crime I may be committing by failing to cooperate with George Bush's henchmen. After all, not cooperating with tyranny is the very foundation of this country. They soon left with their tail behind their legs, not willing to take any more of my insults. They returned 30 minutes later with a scanner and read all the license plates of the vehicle in my driveway. But they did stay inside their vehicle when they did it, and it was a black Ford Astro van. We're starting to receive federal attention with the DA forbidding us to have Hemp Fest. Sorry, that didn't work. Now we must not allow them to happen to look at our medical records either. This is way too dangerous. We must not allow it to happen. Tyranny is here in Portland, and we damn well better stop it right now. That's the way I feel about it tonight, right down here on Hemp Street. I'm angry, and I want you to know I'm angry.
Mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. Right. That's what we often said. And it's true, and we are fighting that, and the ACLU has come in with some heavy guns to lead the charge, and we're very happy to have their support and their help. And they've been approaching this, and so it goes. Again. So we do have a caller. Hello, caller. You're on the show. Oh, nope. The caller's gone. Well, so it goes. Again. Tomorrow, Saturday, May 12th, right here in River City, Portland, Oregon Normal has the patient-only meeting on North Ivy. It's 311 North Ivy at the Liberty Hall, and it's just off North Vancouver. It starts at 11:30. The doors are going to close, I think, at 12, so you want to be there around 11:30. It's the Oregon Normal monthly patient-only Oregon Normal cardholder meeting. So that's going to be 311 North Ivy. And if you have extra cuttings, plants, medicine, bring them on down. You can give them away to people who sorely need it. So we urge you, if you have extra medicine or cuttings, clean cuttings without bugs, please, bring them down and we will give them away to patients who desperately need them. So we urge you to participate in this once-a-month Oregon medical marijuana patients cardholder event that Oregon Normal organizes. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Guess we have a caller now. Hello, caller. You're on the show.
Hey, how's it going? I've been watching you guys for a couple months, and right now I'm just kind of curious. It's obviously getting real heavy, and I'm just wondering, what exactly is the law? Right now in the state of Oregon, and what is the law?
Okay, simple possession of less than 28 grams, 28.35 grams, or an ounce of marijuana is an infraction that carries no jail time, can't lead to a search of your home or your person if you're found in possession of less than 1 ounce. It's a minimum fine of $500 and a maximum fine of $1,000 with no jail term attached to that at all.
Okay,
so that's a misdemeanor. Once you go above 1 ounce, once you get up to 29 grams or more,
that's not even what I'm talking about. Really, what I'm getting at is, as far as medical, patients. What is the law for them? It seems like that's what. Yeah. What's
medical
going on
patients,
right now.
as long as they meet the Oregon Medical Marijuana Act specifications, they're protected under Oregon state law. And they really aren't subject to federal prosecution because it's way under the limits that the federal government has for prosecuting people. So under Oregon's medical marijuana law, a patient can have 6 plants that are flowering or not flowering and of any size. There's no limit on 6 plant size. They can have 18 plants that are starter plants, less than a foot tall or a foot wide. They can have a total of 24 ounces or 1.5 pounds of medicine at one time.
Okay, all right. Well, so why are these guys bugging you so much?
Well, it has to do with someone who was growing on both sides of the border, is what it comes down to. There was a fellow out there who got nabbed a few months ago who knows Don and knows these people who've had their records subpoenaed and acted apparently as a caregiver. And he's being investigated, and that's what this whole thing revolves around, is a caregiver who didn't really understand the law and who was growing on both sides of the border. And that's just an invitation to federal intervention once you are operating on both sides of the border.
Yeah, like an interstate thing, right. Okay,
exactly.
Okay, so like more fundamentally...
So this guy really didn't... He made a number of mistakes. I'm not going to outline them here right now.
Okay.
But there were things he should have known, that Oregon patients can't grow in Washington, and Washington patients can't grow in Oregon. But he wasn't well educated on those points, and therefore he ran afoul of them, and looks like he's going to pay a very heavy price for that mistake.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, so, where does the whole, medical marijuana thing stand right now?
It's really growing. It's growing pretty rapidly. I'd say on a national level, we're getting more traction than we've ever had before. The United States Congress supports us, but apparently there are members in the congressional leadership in Washington, D.C. that don't want to vote on it until after the presidential election, thinking that it might hurt their chances to win the presidency. And so, but not all presidential candidates feel that way. If you look at the Democrats, Dennis Kucinich has appeared on this television show, Cannabis Common Sense, twice, and we're hoping to have him on again. We'll run some tapes of him. But he is for ending the drug war, and he's now in charge of a congressional committee that oversees the White House Office of National Drug Control Policy, the ones who put on over $1 billion worth of propaganda advertising around the nation telling us this is your brain on drugs while they're frying eggs.
Cool. Okay.
And so Dennis Kucinich is in a good position, and if you look on the Republican side, there's a really good Republican out there too. Ron Paul of Houston, Texas, is for ending the drug war, ending the war in Iraq. He's for going back to the roots of this nation. He's really a libertarian. And in 1988, I got to meet him when he was running for the presidency as a Libertarian nominee, the Libertarian Party nominee. And so Ron Paul, if Ron Paul won the Republican nomination and Kucinich won the Democratic nomination, both of them are long shots right now. But I'd have real trouble picking which one to vote for myself. But, that'd be a dream election. I'd be happy whichever way it went.
Okay, yeah, man. Okay, well, I think another, really important point is, the fact that, we're talking about medicine, really, basically, is what we're talking about. And, if you look at, cannabis as opposed to alcohol, like myself, I have hepatitis C, so, drinking's, not an option. It's a bad option.
Yeah. Hey, we're running out of time here.
Okay. All right, my brother. Be cool.
All right. Thanks for calling. Thanks for calling.
All right.
If you're out there and you have a chronic pain condition, chronic nausea condition like IBS or Crohn's disease, you have fibromyalgia, you have a spastic condition or chronic muscle spasms such as with multiple sclerosis, or a chronic seizure disorder like epilepsy, or you have AIDS, cancer, glaucoma, or a neurological degenerative disease, medical marijuana can help. And here in Portland, we can refer you to a doctor. Just call our Portland office at 503-235-4606. Up in Seattle, we have a Seattle number, and that Seattle number is 206-878-1701. That's 206-878-1701. For our Denver viewers, you can call us at 303-403-9996. That's 303-403-9996. And if you're outside of those major metropolitan areas, anywhere in Oregon, Washington, California, Hawaii, Colorado, or Nevada, call our toll-free number at 1-800-723-0188. We also have classes where we can help teach you, if you have a medical marijuana permit, how to grow medical marijuana or make medicinal grade hashish. Well, Don, we're out of time. You want to say anything?
We're out of time. Well, Mr. Graham Boyd, the ACLU
the American
said if they come back, take their pictures and send them on their way again.
All right.
So my camera's ready. Come on.
All right. Thank you, folks, for watching. We're going to go out with the fabulous music of Mr. Tim Pate, some images from the THCF Medicinal Garden. Stay tuned for future episodes. Watch us on YouTube. Thanks for watching and help us restore hemp.
Amen.
Good night.